Okay, so we've just created our OSPF network out to the Nexus 7000s, and we successfully have our areas created, our interfaces are all up, and we are successfully passing routes between ACI and the Nexus 7000. What I'd want to do here is take it one step further, and we will create some endpoint groups inside of ACI that can communicate to networks outside of ACI and the Nexus 7000s. So the first thing we need to do is down here where we created our external network is I want to connect it to something. So to connect an EPG to an EPG, we need a contract. Right now, there are no EPGs configured inside of here. So what you'll need to do is determine what filters and contracts you want to make and how you want traffic to pass inside the network. For testing reasons, I went and created a basic filter that says allow all traffic. So this filter is just any-to-any type of traffic, and I built that into this contract. So this will be the contract that I'm going to use to connect my OSPF external network to the endpoint groups that I'm going to create in just a minute. So I'll go back up here, and I'll go into my external EPG, and under contracts, I'm going to, both as a provider and a consumer, I'm going to select that same contract. So we'll hit update here, add this under consume, the same contract. That way we can have two-way communications. And again, this is going to be between the external EPG and the EPG we're going to create up in the application network profile. Next, I'm going to go up and I'm going to create a bridge domain. And this bridge domain is going to have the subnet that I'm going to create for my endpoint group. So we'll just call this layer 3 BD. And I'm going to leave all that information its default. I'm going to assign it to the VRF that I created here, the L3-EXT VRF. And then I will hit next. And here, I'm going to create my network. And for right now, the subnet is going to be 3.3.3. I know normally we set .1, but I'm going to put this as .3 for testing, just to keep it simple. Now, how do I want this network to be advertised? So private to VRF is exactly as it sounds, externally advertised. This is when I want it to actually be advertised as part of my OSPF subnet. And then shared between VRFs, we can also select this, and this comes later, is when you want to start doing route leaking between VRFs, either within a tenant, or you can actually extend those out to another tenant. But that will be a different discussion. We're going to select the layer 3 route profile we created earlier, the layer 3 out, and then I'm going to select the same one here. Actually, you have to select it up here. And then we're going to associate this to our external layer 3 out network. Here, we're going to update. And same thing here, I'm going to select that route profile. And we'll go to next. And we will hit finish. Okay, so now I have created my layer 3 bridge domain. And I've signed the subnet. Now, what I'm going to do is real quickly go out to one of my Nexus 7000. I'm going to do a show IP route. And as you can see here, we do not see that network I just created out in OSPF yet on the Nexus 7000. And that's because that bridge domain is not yet active. I have not really associated anything to it. So let's go one step further, and now let's go and create an application profile. And in that application profile, I will then create an endpoint group. So I'll go out here, and I will call this L3-AMP. And I'm going to go ahead and create an EPG. I will call this L3. And I'm going to associate it with the bridge domain. So let's call it, we'll just call it L3-EPG, I guess. We'll associate it with the bridge domain we just created. And then over here, I'm going to put in my contracts that I created earlier. That's going to allow me to build that connection between this application profile, or this EPG, and the external EPG. So we'll hit submit here. Now if we go down and take a look, we can see here that now that I have that contract built, I have my layer 3 EPG here, and I have my layer 3 external EPG here, and the contract that allows all. So if I go into here and now I do a show IP route, we will see that now my 333 network is now being advertised. So we're getting closer. Now let's just see, can I go ahead and ping that subnet I just created? And I cannot. And the reason being is because even though I've created that bridge domain, I have no traffic that endpoint group's going to pass. So inside of here, I'm going to have to go into my EPG, and it has no users, or nothing is attached inside of this endpoint group. So to make this endpoint group come active and to have it where you can actually ping the subnet, because again, the subnet is associated to this EPG only, and there's no traffic being passed in this EPG, so that subnet is not yet active. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a domain, and you can add any type of domain you want, but in here I'm going to do a VMM domain, so I'm going to associate this to my labs VMware cluster. I'm going to set this to immediate. That means even though I don't have any endpoints in my endpoint group, it's going to make this EPG go active. And if this is all done right, then once I connect to this and it gets formed, now I should be able to go back to that same device and hit ping, and yes, so now that gateway has gone active. So I hope this helped. I just wanted this to be a real quick and informative video following up to the other one. How do I get back and how do I test this? So do a show IP route here, and as you can see, the same networks are being passed. So now I have my networks 1, which is on BDC1, network 2, which is on BDC2, and then network 3, which is on the APIC. And inside the APIC, we can go into the GUI, and we can see that all the routes are now being passed in my networks. Hold on one second. Right here, and you can see here's networks 1, 2, and 3, and then all of my other connectivity networks. And something else you can do too is we did ping test over here. You can also go into the APIC itself and do a ping test. It's a little bit more involved. Hold on one second, let me get to the right screen. So I can go to the APIC. So right now I'm attached to the APIC itself. If I want to do a ping test though, I need to go out to one of the leafs that are connected to BDC 1 or BDC 2. So here I'm going to go to, let's go to leaf 103. So to do this, at least with today's syntax, is I go back into my bash shell. This is a Linux kernel. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to type in attach leaf 103. And do I have the right name? Oh, there it is. So it's not leaf 103, it's leaf 3. There we go. And then inside of here, I can do a ping, but I'm going to have to put in a little bit more information. So here I'm going to do an IPing. And then if you look into the context, it's going to be -V, capital V. And then here, this is where it gets a little lengthy, is I'm going to have to write in the tenant and the VRF that I'm going to want to do that ping in. So my tenant is L2-L3-EXT. And then my VRF is going to be L2-L3-EXP-VRF. And then I will go ahead and I'll put in the IP address of, let's do BDC2, so do 2.2.2.2. We hit return, and I'm getting a successful ping. So that is a ping from the VRF out into the 2.2 network out on BDC2. And that will do it for today. Now hopefully you understand a little bit more on how to bring up your external routed network. Real quickly go out and create a bridge domain, an application network profile, and an endpoint group. Create the contracts that associate all those together and able to do some pings and route table lookups in different pieces for that. So that's it. Take care.